lights, they'd make me tell the truth. I'll tell you. My name is Bob Darrow, and I am alcoholic. And through the grace of a God that I was afraid to believe in, that I've accessed and maintained through the actions outlined in a book entitled Alcoholics Anonymous, the ability to remain sponsorable, and a persistent and consistent effort in our primary purpose of trying to forget ourselves and devote our lives to helping drunks. Consequently, I haven't had a drink or any mind or emotion-altering medication since October 31st, 1978. Removed. I want to thank Mike for asking me. I was impressed the way he was organizing the line by sobriety date. I thought maybe just start with the first row and just do the whole audience like that. It's pretty impressive. I want to welcome the newcomers. There's a lot of new people here. And I know there's some new people here that didn't want to raise your hand or didn't want to stand up. And I'm glad you're here. I don't think in a room like this, I don't think I would admit it that I was new. I think I'd have been too afraid. And the guys that got the newcomer chips, the 24-hour chips, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, where on earth can you go where you'll get a little gift for recently burning your life to the ground? I mean, come on. I mean, you won't get that at the PTA, for God's sakes. I'm a member of the Connect the Dots group in the hitting bottom capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. I have a sponsor. I've always had a sponsor. I've always had a home group. I've always sponsored people. And I've always had commitments and been busy in AA. Because my life depends upon me being tethered here. And people drift off because they don't fall in love with AA. And a funny thing, I discovered that you'll fall in love with anything you serve. And you'll stay in love with anything you continue to serve. That's why at 44 plus years I have commitments, and I serve in Alcoholics Anonymous. It keeps me here, and it keeps the love affair I have with AA going. When I tell you I'm an alcoholic, what am I saying? I mean, am I saying I've got problems? I'm saying I got a drinking problem? I came to Alcoholics Anonymous the first time before I was old enough to take a legal drink. And I would admit that I was an alcoholic because you put me in a group setting and you're looking at me. I'll admit anything you want me to admit. You know what I'm saying? I'm just so obsessed with what you think of me and so afraid of confrontation. And I'm an alcoholic, whatever. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'll tell you what I know today. In our book, it says that we learned, and this has been a 44 plus year lesson for me, we learned that we had to fully, which is a lot, I think it's more than half, fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. And I know I'm more alcoholic today than I was when I was new, because I understand what I have today. I didn't. And I'm probably going to learn more about it as time goes on. But when I say I'm an alcoholic, I'm talking about an effect produced by alcohol that only alcoholics get. And it turns into an obsession. When I was 13 years old, I got drunk for the first time. Now, I got to tell you, before I ever got drunk, I wasn't right. I was like a freeze-dried alcoholic waiting for alcohol because I was not right. I had all the stuff that people in AA talk about, the restless, the irritable, the discontent, resentments, fears, that social anxiety disorder. I didn't fit anywhere. I mean, I was a mess. But I hid it well behind a facade. I was very good at pretending I was tough, and I wasn't tough. I was good at pretending I wasn't afraid, and I was afraid. I was good at pretending like I fit, and I really didn't feel like I fit. I was good at pretending like I'm okay, and the truth is I'm not. I was all front and no back. And I lived with an anxiety about being found out. And the first time I ever drank alcohol, it was unbelievable what happened to me. It was like all those fears fell away from me. And all of a sudden, for the first time, I felt like these other kids looked. I felt connected. I felt a part of. I didn't have to pretend I was all right. I was all right. I didn't have to pretend I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid. I didn't have to pretend I was cool. I was cool. And it was spectacular. My parents, since I was a little tiny kid, were telling me about my potential. That day, I discovered my potential. And I love the effect produced by alcohol. It set me free. I could come out and play. I could talk to people. And later years, in kind of junior high dances, I could get about half drunk, and I discovered that I could dance. Who knew? I didn't know. I don't know how to dance. Who knew that there was 15 Arthur Murray dance lessons in a bottle of vodka? Who knew that? I mean, I didn't know that. I could get drunk and I could be funny. I'm not funny sober. I'm a mope. I'm just so locked up inside of me. I'm not funny. Nothing's funny. But you get me half drunk, I'm funny. I crack me up. I am funny. I can talk to girls when I'm drinking. I can't talk to girls sober. And I don't want to be crude, but I swear that if it wasn't for alcohol, I'd probably be celibate to this day. Because I was too afraid. I can't risk you rejecting me, so I reject me first, right? And that's the way I was wired, and alcohol set me free. It made me at times feel like the guy I always wished and dreamed I would be. Well, that effect, that magical effect that alcohol produced in me created an obsession for that effect. Now, it wasn't, people would talk, and I ended up in AA when I was about 20, people would talk about this obsession with alcohol. I don't have that because it's not really an obsession with, say, Budweiser or Jack Daniels. It's an obsession with an effect. I love the effect. And what was the effect? Well, you'll hear 1,000 people talk about it 1,000 different ways, but I think you can condense it all down to one great reality. When alcohol worked in the early days, in the days when the obsession was set, alcohol relieved me of the bondage of self. Because I could walk into a party or someplace where my buddies are drinking and I could be locked up inside of me. Like I just got myself right on me. Like, do you ever see that movie Alien, that creature that attaches itself to your face? I just got Bob right on Bob. It's like, geez, I feel like I'm suffocating here. And I would drink alcohol and I could come out and play. I'd get free. I could get free. I love free. And I could also get a feeling of unity and connectedness. And I don't have that sober. When I'm sober, I have that thing Wilson talks about in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, that horrible state of anxious apartness. And we all know what that feels like. Every chronic alcoholic we ever talked to, whether you're in a classroom or an AA meeting or at work, a feeling like it's all of them and then there's me, in a state of separation, almost as if there was some invisible yet impenetrable barrier between me and life that I couldn't break through it. I couldn't will myself through it. I couldn't will it away. And yet, in the early days of my drinking, not the end, but at the early days, I'd drink alcohol and that barrier would dissolve and I was free. And I loved that effect. Well, my sister doesn't get that effect. My mother didn't get that effect. If they'd have got the effect produced by alcohol that I got, they probably would have drank like I drank. But they don't get that. They just get tipsy. If you ever watch a non-alcoholic drink, they'll do the crazy stuff. I mean, 2 drinks and they'll say things like, well, I don't want any more of that. I'm starting to feel it. I don't want to be crude, but it'd be easier for me to have sex and after a couple thrusts go, I don't want any more of that. I'm starting to feel it. Than it would be to do that with 2 drinks of alcohol. And non-alcoholics are crazy. Just when they get to the place where I get lit up, they get a feeling like they're losing control. I don't. I get a feeling like I'm getting control. And I get a feeling like maybe on the next drink. And it's always the next drink because I also, another factor of my alcoholism, and this is really what defines me. Now, there's a lot of people in the world that are restless, irritable, discontent, low-level depression. They don't feel like they fit, but they're not alcoholics. Because alcohol doesn't solve that for them. It solved it for me. And I know I'm an alcoholic because I have the one definitive characteristic that Dr. Silkworth in the Doctor's Opinion says it's what distinguishes me, what sets me apart as a distinct entity called chronic alcoholic. It's when I drink alcohol, I have an abnormal reaction to alcohol that other people do not have. Only alcoholics have this. And it was hard for me to see because in 1971, as a young kid, when I came to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was in the middle of a forest of other problems. I mean, I had problems with all kinds of drugs. I had problems with depression. I had problems with anxiety. I had problems with that thing they have now, that social anxiety disorder. I worried a lot. I worried to the point at times when I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I don't fit anywhere. I'm a mess. And you're saying it's alcohol. Yeah, alcohol's in there somewhere, I think. But it's alcoholism. And alcoholism is like a tree that feeds a forest and it hides in the middle of the forest of other problems. And you know why I believe that's true? Because when I got sober and started applying the 12 steps, the actions of service, the actions of unity to this sickness, most of those other problems just straightened up or eventually went on hold intermittently until I got to step 6. And so I have alcoholism, but I don't see it because of all the other stuff. When I went to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, you could have put me on a lie detector and said, "Bob, are you an alcoholic?" I'd have said, "Absolutely not." And I bet you would have said I was telling the truth. Now, I would have admitted to having a drug problem. I mean, you know, the chapter 3 says most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. That is so true. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I'll be a drug addict. That's kind of sexy and cool. There were rock stars that were drug addicts. I mean, I'm good with that. I'll be a mental health case because if you're a mental health case, they give you pills and sympathy. I like both of those. But I don't want to be an alcoholic. I had uncles that were alcoholics and they were obnoxious and pathetic. I don't want to be like that. But I am like that. And people who argue with the truth get sick. And I didn't want to be an alcoholic, but I was. And I drink alcohol, and I get this abnormal reaction to alcohol. As I drink it, and I start to feel that effect, you know, that warm thing, that thing that starts to set me free. I have an abnormal reaction to that effect. And what happens? Well, our book says we have an allergy, and the allergic reaction is a phenomenon of craving. What does that mean? It means when I drink alcohol, I get an overwhelming yearning for more. It's as if deep down in the core of my being is an unrealized switch, and only alcohol can throw that switch. Other substances don't throw that switch, but alcohol throws that switch. Now, other substances, I might be obsessed with the effect, but only alcohol throws this switch. And it's the got to have more switch. And I would drink alcohol and that switch would get thrown, and then I ain't done till I come to. I ain't done. I've never, in all the years I partied, never been in a guy's basement, snorting lines, smoking a little dope, drinking wine, or been in the bar with my buddies as I frequently would do, doing shots and beers and shooting pool, and after an hour, have a guy say, "Hey, Bob, can I buy you another one?" I've never known the experience of looking at him and thinking to myself, "No, I'm good here now, thanks." I've never known that experience. Non-alcoholics know that experience continually. I don't even know what that's like. And I always had that. And see, alcohol is not my drug of choice. Treatment centers had messed me up. They'd ask me that question. You know, you ask a guy like me that question, what's your drug of choice? I just sit there spin thinking, well, what do you got? I mean, I broke open a magic marker in jail one time and huffed it, hoping something would happen. I don't. What they should ask is, what happens when you drink alcohol, Bob? Tell me about the times you had a couple drinks and you didn't have to keep going. That if you were at your buddy's house and you drank a 12-pack of beer and it's gone, tell me what happened, Bob. Did you go to their bathroom and go through their medicine cabinet? Did you run down the street to a bar to get some more? Did you go to somebody else's house that you knew had alcohol? What happened to you when you started to drink alcohol, Bob? But they just say, what's your drug of choice? And it confuses me. But I am an alcoholic. I have an obsession with the effect, and this obsession is so hardwired inside of me that years past the point where I could obtain that effect. Late stage alcoholism is brutal because it's like paying high rent on a house that already burnt down. There's no more party. I'm chasing the ghosts of parties past, right? I'm like desperate to jumpstart that thing, and it don't jumpstart. And now the last couple years, I drink in depression. I drink in horrible feelings of loneliness. What's that about? Alcohol used to connect me to people. Now it makes me even feel lonelier. I cry sometimes when I'm drinking. I don't know what's wrong with me. I call, if I was sleeping on your couch, if you felt sorry for me, often at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd run out of vodka and I can't get anything for a couple hours and I'd be nuts. I'd get on your telephone. I called one time at about 4:30 in the morning. I called up an ex-girlfriend, woke her up. And then I hear her voice. I start crying into the phone. We should have gotten married. And then her husband gets on the phone, threatens me. What happened to the suave debonair thing? What happened? Where'd that go? Where'd the cool go? This has become pathetic. And yet, I don't want to give up hope. Hope kills guys like me because I take the hope, any hope I can muster, and I aim it at the most important thing, this thing that's an obsession with me. The obsession that somehow, some way, someday, for God's sakes, I'm going to enjoy my drinking like I used to. And I'm going to keep the damage down to something reasonable. The book says that that somehow, someday, we'll control and enjoy our drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. And it says that something that came true with me, many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. And that's happened to me. And I didn't know how it was happening. I spent the last 3 years of my drinking. It was just so pathetic. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't want to drink. I don't want to go to parties. I don't want to go to clubs and bars anymore because they're full of people that can drink and get that magical effect, and they're having fun, and I can see it, and it breaks my heart because I can remember when I was that guy, and I can't get that back anymore. And it's horrible. And then the problem is, if you're like that, you eventually have to get sober. I'd get sober sometimes because I'd be arrested. I got sober a couple times in the county. I got sober by checking into a detox. I got sober in the hospital from getting beat up in a bar because I say inappropriate things to people that are tougher than I am when I get drunk sometimes. And my friend Cliff said, it was amazing. He says, I used to want to get real tough and fight people. And it was the same time that my coordination was gone. It's like, yeah, right. It's like, oh, that's bad. And so this is not a party. It's pathetic. And I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to lots of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was made to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And something became very obvious and very apparent to me from listening to you and watching you. That whatever's wrong with me, and my God, there's something horribly wrong with me, and I don't know what it is. But whatever's wrong with me, it's not the same thing that's wrong with you, because look at you. You quit drinking, you're grateful for everything. Oh my God. Sitting in a recovery house one time, I just burnt my life to the ground, and this endless procession of these do-gooders from AA come in and tell me how wonderful their life was. I wanted to kill myself. I just think, oh man, this is hell. This is hell. You ruin your life, and then you have to have your face rubbed in how wonderful other people is. You know, I mean, it's horrible. Alcoholics Anonymous is baffling to me. And oh God, all this happy clappy stuff. Jesus. You ever been newly sober? You just ruined your life again. And some yahoo in AA comes up to you with a big grin on his face. He says, has anybody told you they love you today? Oh no, he's going to try to hug me. I know it. I don't want touching. Nobody's touching me. Oh my God, I hated AA. All the God talk. I was an atheist when I got here. Sort of. I wanted to be an atheist. What I really was, truly, is I was a guy that was afraid. I was afraid of God. I was afraid of something I knew. I don't know where the information came from, but I knew it, that if there was a God, I'm too stained for him. He might help you guys. You're nice people. I can tell by looking at you. Nice people. But you don't understand some of the things. And I did some horrible, horrible things to some really good people. Things I never heard anybody talking about in AA. And so I knew that if, and I'm hoping there's not, but if there was a God, he ain't going to do nothing for me. And so I took the atheistic stance. But I can't pull it off very well. You ever known some real atheists? You have to be very religious about your atheism to be a good atheist. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a guy who's scared of God. I'm a guy who feels less than. I'm a guy who feels unworthy. And so I can't, when you talk about God, I just shut down. I just shut down. And I'm that guy. If I just think you don't like me, I'm going to not like you first. And I couldn't stay sober. I got sober over and over and over again. You know, I'd get several months, you know. I never got a year. I couldn't do it. Even in an institution, I couldn't stay sober a year. Because this untreated alcoholism is killing me, and I don't understand it. See, it's not just that I have this abnormal reaction to alcohol, and I do. I start drinking, I can't stop. But I have an abnormal reaction to abstinence, and that's what's killing me, and I can't see it. But I ain't right when I'm sober. When I get sober, I'm plagued with guilt and shame and remorse. When I get sober, I start to immediately building cases on people. There's something about me. I used to think it was a gift. I thought it was because I was intelligent, that I can see the stupidity in people quickly, very quickly. And I don't suffer stupidity well. And everywhere I look, I see stupid people. I thought it was because I was smart. I'm not smart. It's because I have this huge ego and truly no self-esteem. And I'm trying to find fault with you, hoping that it'll level the playing field, you know? When you secretly, deep down inside, feel like a piece of crap, maybe if I can make you all out to be stupid and a piece of crap, maybe I won't feel so bad about myself. So I was judgmental. I'm restless. I can't sit still. You want to drive an untreated alcoholic crazy? Make him stand in a DMV line for 2 hours. He'll lose his mind. I'm restless. I'm irritable. I just get so jacked up over people's watching what you're doing. And I'm chronically malcontent. And I think of all the symptoms of untreated alcoholism that drive a guy like me back to drinking again. That may very well be the most baffling to me. Because I get sober and I'm not right. And I know I'm not right. I might not tell you, but I know I'm not right. Something's missing. I'm not happy about my sobriety. That's the truth. I pretend like I am, but I'm not. And so I go into acquisition mode. looking for things that will make a difference, looking for things that put in this hole inside of my being. A Harley, a Harley that was in a magazine, that'll do it. That girl, you know, oh my God, you see that girl, you think, oh my God. If I was sleeping with her, I wouldn't have to drink ever again. That job in the steel mill, making that, have a Harley, buy a boat, own a house kind of money. If I had that, oh man, I wouldn't want to drink that for sure. And what happens is I acquire these things, and from the moment they're mine, the shine starts to wear off on them. And it starts to pale. And I didn't understand what that was about until I was about 10 years sober. And I was working with a guy at the state prison I was trying to sponsor. And he said something to me one day, and the light went on. Alcohol's effect with me was so spectacular, and my obsession with that effect ran so deep that every time I got sober, no matter what was in my life, unconsciously, on an emotional level, I'd compare what it's like to have that job to what it was like to have 5 shots of tequila, when 5 shots of tequila changed the world. I'd be with that girl, the best girl I've ever been with, and after a while, I start comparing what it feels like to be with her to what it felt like to have some 151 rum. And now I don't like her anymore. And no matter what I brought into my life, unconsciously, I didn't even know I was doing this, I would put it up against the effect produced by alcohol, and there's nothing in the material plane that can match something that does something what alcohol did in the early days on the spiritual plane. Because alcohol created a spiritual experience for me. It connected me to life. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever had this experience where, I remember on many occasions, I feel horrible, bad. And I go into this bar because I got to have a couple drinks. My nerves are shot. Got to have a couple drinks. And I just walk into a bar, sober. Just the people there, oh, they're horrible, aren't they? They're cliquey, stupid, not my kind of people. Go up to that bar, get a couple double shots, 100 proof. All of a sudden you start looking around, you think, you know, maybe I was wrong about some of them. They're not as bad as I thought they were. And, you know, after about 5 drinks, I'm shooting pool with a couple guys. After about 8 drinks, we're planning our vacations together. And after about 20 drinks, I'm like falling down going, I love you, bro. I died for you, man. And it was a spiritual experience. For a guy who's incapable of connectedness, intimacy, and love, it was the closest I ever got. Because I really felt love. I really felt connection. I really felt like my spirit was alive and free. Now, if alcohol would continue to do that, I'd have never got sober. Never. But what happens in late stage alcoholism, it turns on you. Wilson used the analogy of a boomerang that takes majestic heights and then switches back and comes back to cut you. And that's what alcohol did to me. Last couple of years, I'm chasing these parties I can't catch. It was horrible. I got real sick physically. A therapist one time in a treatment center said that only 5% of the alcoholics become physically addicted to alcohol. I was one of those guys. I would have seizures. I would shake uncontrollably when I wasn't drinking. It was embarrassing. And I'm a young kid in my 20s. I got in trouble one night, and I put my fist through a plate glass window, and some people felt sorry for me because I wouldn't stop bleeding. They took me to an emergency room. And I'm in the emergency room, and they gave me some x-rays. They stitched me up, and they gave me some x-rays. And I had to wait there for the results of the x-rays. And I don't want to wait there. I need a drink bad, because I've already started drinking. I need a drink bad. But I can't leave. So I'm sitting there in the waiting room. There's a rack of medical pamphlets, heart disease, diabetes, that kind of stuff. I grabbed one of those medical pamphlets, and it was called something like the 7 warning signs of cancer. I started thumbing through that pamphlet, and one of the things it said that was a warning sign of cancer was intermittent, unexplained bleeding. I remember reading that thing. Oh, I dry heave and blood comes out sometimes. Matter of fact, there's been 1 or 2 occasions I've been bleeding out of both ends. It just like an epiphany. I thought, oh my God, I got terminal cancer. And then it just moved to a whole new level. I thought, no, whoa, it's metastasized to my brain. I have a terminal brain tumor. That's why I do these crazy things and I can't remember them. People are always accusing me of doing things I can't remember. That's why I fly off the handle on people sometimes on a job for no apparent reason. They didn't do nothing. I just like a crazy guy. My emotional responses are erratic. That's why I don't feel like I fit anywhere when I'm sober. That's why I'm a recluse. That's why I'm depressed. Oh my God, people are saying I was a bum. I have a brain tumor. And I just, oh my God, I think about that brain tumor. Some days I could feel it growing, and I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. They're going to find out. They're going to take me to a cancer ward, and they're going to notify my parents, who by this time would have nothing to do with me, because they think I'm a bum and a useless person they can't trust, and they're going to realize how wrong they've been, and they're going to come running to that hospital, and then all my ex-girlfriends are going to learn what happened, and they're going to think, oh no, Bob, we thought you were a bum. You have a brain tumor. Oh, we're so sorry. They come running to the hospital properly ashamed of themselves. Oh man, I love that brain tumor. I ended up in another detox. And the medical guy who's checking me in, doing my vitals and everything, he starts talking about alcoholism. I said, Doc, I got a terminal brain tumor. And he looks at me and he says, has that been verified? I said, yes, it was. Well, it's verified by the smartest guy I know, me, right? And so he's put me through a whole bunch of tests. They shot dye in me. They put me in a tube. They did blood work, x-ray, everything. And I'm waiting for my redemption where everybody's going to realize how wrong they've been about Bob. And I'm going to die, but that's okay. I'll die right, and they're going to die wrong. And he comes in to give me the good news. He says, you're not going to die. You don't have a brain tumor. You don't have cancer at all. The only thing we could find was a small ulcer and a small hemorrhoid. Isn't this amazing? I wanted a second opinion, right? Oh my God, I'm going to live? Well, that next year, I got sentenced to 2 years in a state penitentiary, and I went before a judge, and he cut me a break. He said, we're going to sentence you to 2 years of felony, but we're going to stay the commitment, and right now it's a misdemeanor time served, provided you go in this place called the Ark House and you stay there for a year. You make the restitution, you pay the court costs, you get good UAs, good PO report, and at the end of that year, if you've done everything you're supposed to do, misdemeanor time served. But if not, kid, it's 2 years and it's a felony. So I went into this place with a determination, man. I know I've said to myself before, crying sometimes, I'm never going to drink again. But I really don't want to do this no more. But I can't. I can't not start. My emotions and my thinking just works on me. Day in and day out and week in and week out and month in and month out till I just get it up to here. I just get to a place it's hard to describe where I feel if I don't take a drink, I'm going to die. But yet at the same time, I'm afraid if I do take a drink, I'm going to die. I'm in a trap I can't spring. And of course I drink. Thought I'd get away with it. I can't get away with nothing. I got thrown out of there and I'm living in the park. And I don't even know how long. I think it was probably, from the shape I was in, it was probably 10 days or more, maybe 2 weeks. But I came to one day on this park bench and I'm shaking uncontrollably. I'm grabbing myself like this and I'm rocking back and forth like I want to jump out of my skin. I got sores that don't heal because I don't eat. I'm not against eating. If I can hustle a couple bucks and you give me a choice between McDonald's or another half gallon of Richard's Wild Irish Rose, McDonald's loses that debate every single time, because I need the blot bob out medicine more than I need anything, just to keep the madness at bay. I got my gums bleed, I'm spitting up blood, and I just want to die. And that doctor who told me I didn't have a tumor, he also told me something else, and which should have been good news. It was not good news, not that morning. He said, kid, you have alcoholism. You keep drinking, it's going to kill you. But you're a young kid. It might take 5 more years. And sitting on that park bench that morning, facing 2 years in prison, I'm stuck in a trap I can't spring. I know the truth now that drinking has turned on me, and it's horrible, and it's pathetic, and abstinence isn't any better because it's depressing and feels like I'm doing time, and I don't know where to go, and there's nowhere to go. And that doctor said, if you keep drinking, it's going to kill you, but it'll take 5 more years. And I thought, 5 more years? No, sir. No, sir. I can't do 5 more days. And I made the decision to kill myself. And in the decision to kill myself, I actually felt better. Like as if I've been seeking oblivion. My drinking, I'm an oblivion drinker. It's not a party anymore. I just drink to blot bob out. And maybe death is what I'm really looking for. Let's just get it all over with, you know? Let's just get it all over with, because I'm in hell when I'm sober, and I'm in hell when I'm drinking. Let's just get it over with. And I went to a bridge to kill myself. And I was struck with a terror, and it was not the fear of death, truly. I'm looking down on these railroad tracks below, and the fear was that maybe this isn't high enough. Maybe I won't die. Maybe I'll end up paralyzed from the neck down. I'll lay in some charity ward where guys like Mike bring newcomers into the room, and I get to hear him say things like, well, if you don't find God in our 12 steps, this is what's going to happen to you, you know. Oh, geez. And I'm paralyzed. I can't even give him the 1-finger salute, you know. I don't know if there's a level of pathetic worse than I felt that day. Our book refers to a state of pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I think there's a place you can go where you can't go no more. And I think that was it. And I can't. I've burnt my life to the ground. I've broken the hearts and pushed away. Nobody will talk to me. When I was arrested and they gave me a phone call, there was nobody to call. And I did that. Did I mean to do it? No. Did I do it? Yeah, I did it. I've burnt my life to the ground. Drinking has turned on me. It's pathetic, and abstinence ain't no good. And by this time, I've gone to the rock stars of psychotherapy. My mother was a therapist. I actually, for a little while, worked in the field. I was in therapy with people. You had to be a senator or a movie star to see. Guys like Elvis. I was actually go up to New York, and I was in therapy with Albert Ellis, the founder of rational emotive therapy. I was with Silverman, who studied with Fritz Perls and Alan Watts. I mean, if therapy and psychotherapy and psychology could have fixed me, I'd have been fixed. But I just got crazier, and I got worse, and more confused. And I couldn't kill myself. And I shuffled off that bridge in just a horrible, horrible depression. And through a bizarre series of circumstances, I ended up in Las Vegas. Wasn't trying to go to Las Vegas, trying to go to California. Ended up in Las Vegas in a detox. The Buddhists say when the student's ready, the teachers appear. There was a man who brought a meeting in there twice a week. He'd been a past delegate. He was involved in everything in Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a doer. He wasn't a talker, he was a doer. And he was my first sponsor. We were brought together, I believe, by divine appointment, because he was perfect for me. And I asked him to sponsor me, and I was so afraid he was going to shut me down. I said, if you will, I'll do anything you ask me to do. Not suspecting how much stuff they wanted you to do. Oh my God, it was a lot. I mean, and he started me up right away. He started me with direction right away. He said, I want you to physically get down on your knees every morning and ask whatever's running the universe for help, and then get down on your knees and thank whatever that was at the end of the day. I said, listen, I can't do that. He said, why not? I said, because I don't believe in God. He said, I didn't ask you to believe in God. I asked you to pray. I said, listen, if I pray and I don't believe in God, I'd be a hypocrite. He said, oh, you've been a hypocrite all your life. Just do it. And it was the first action I ever took that I didn't want to take, I didn't feel like taking, I didn't believe would work, and it began a slow process of changing my life. I'm turning my consciousness towards something I don't even believe in, and it's meeting me the rest of the way. And I entered into, it was like the twilight zone, an endless series of coincidences that were all in my favor, that all facilitated me staying sober. He wanted me to turn myself in and go to prison. I thought, geez, I've got a bad sponsor. Man, and I did it. I followed his direction. He wanted me to start making amends. He told me he said, you need to make amends to your parents. I said, they won't even take my phone calls. He wanted me to call my mom. I said, they won't take the calls. He said, well, don't call collect. Where do you guys come up with this stuff? I mean, is there some secret sponsor school out in the desert behind barbed wire where they teach you this crap? I don't know. I never would have thought of that. Don't call collect. Of course you call collect. It's your parents. Don't call collect. And he pushed me first and foremost into helping people and doing service. He was that guy. He didn't know that much about the big book. He was not a big book mechanic or technician, but he understood the gestalt and the spirit of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the strongest men, my first sponsor and my second sponsor of almost over 28 years, Clancy, were two of the strongest men I've ever met in AA when it came to unity, being part of a home group, and service. And he was my guy, and he started me on this road. And he wanted me to do 12-step work. I was brand new. I'm not even out of detox a week, and he's hammering me. We want you to come down with us into the detox. We want you to sign up for the prison. We want you to get on the 12-step list. We want you to start looking to people to sponsor. I'm out of detox a couple days, for God's sakes. So I reached into my bag of therapy, and I pulled it out, and I said to him, well, don't you think I should work on me for a while? And it looked like he bit into a lemon, and he just reared back and said, work on you? You've done quite enough of that. Stop it. When he said that, I didn't get mad. I thought, yeah, I primal screamed. I was hypnotized, Gestalt therapy, rational motive therapy, transactional analysis. If I could have been fixed, I'd have been fixed by now. He said, stop it. And he started giving me actions to take that would access a power in this universe that I don't even believe in, that would ultimately do for me what I can't do and they can't do and no human power can do for me. It was transformational. And I started to fall in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember in early AA, it was such a bizarre experience. 6-7 years in therapy, and I'm more confused than I've ever been. I don't even know who I am. And I go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and people would share. Now, I'm not talking about people with doctorate degrees. I'm talking about carpenters, car salesmen, cocktail waitresses, bartenders, retail clerks. They're sharing about themselves, and I'm sitting there, and I'm nodding my head, and I'm thinking, my God, I'm like these people. And you did something that the greatest minds in psychiatry couldn't do. You introduced me to me through your experience. And I found myself in Alcoholics Anonymous. I found out who I was, and I found out what my life and purpose is about. One of the things that used to bother me, and I'd go to these AA meetings, and there were these old timers in AA. Now, not all of them. There were a few old timers looked like they needed a drink, but there was some old timers that they were just happy. They walk through life as if they knew exactly who they are, and they knew exactly what their life was about. And through taking the actions of Alcoholics Anonymous, I found out that they did know that. And so do I. I know who I am today. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot, though sometimes I don't think so. I have this malady. And with the malady comes Alcoholics Anonymous, a fount of endless hope and transformation. And I know what my life's about. I wasn't saved from the abyss to live in a big house, and I live in a big house. I wasn't saved from the abyss to have nice cars, and I have nice cars. I wasn't saved from the abyss to have great family, and I have a great family. I was saved from the abyss and given a purpose greater than myself, a purpose greater than anything in my life. And that purpose is to spend the rest of my days trying to help people like me. And that's what I do. My first sponsor went to 2 H&I meetings a week. I go to 2 H&I meetings a week, and I've been doing that for 44 and a half years. I'm on the 12-step list. Why? Because I'm a good guy? So I can come down to Arizona and brag about it? No, I do that because that is the treatment for alcoholism. Wilson, in his story, talks about being plagued with self-pity, depression, and resentment to the point where he's going to drink again. And he said he'd go down to Towns Hospital, he'd spend a couple hours with a guy, and he'd be miraculously uplifted and set on his feet. Because that alcohol, when alcohol worked, relieved me of the bondage of self. 12-step work and service, when it applied, does the same thing. And so I love this life I have. And I'm going to end with a quote, one of my favorite quotes this year. Next year will be something else. Fickled like that. Mark Twain said that the two greatest days in any human being's life is the day you were born and then the day you realized why. There's nothing more precious than having purpose in your life. We all come here with a primary purpose that's making us sick. We come here and our primary purpose is ourselves, and it's killing us. And we transition to a different purpose, and it lights the light. If you're new here, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm glad you're here. I hope you find what I found here. It takes a lot of action to get the results. But where else are you going to go? I mean, most people don't come here with their dance card full. Most people come here because it's the last house on the block. Stay here. Buckle in. Watch the most amazing life you've ever imagined come to you as a result of the actions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thanks for listening.
Philip, would you please escort our speakers to the door? Philip can escort you back, Bob. We record our speakers here, and you can go to Rarely Group on YouTube to find the site to listen to tonight's speaker or any past speaker. And somebody had mentioned they would like to have that YouTube thing up on the screen where you can copy it. But the newsletter that we put out every week that's scattered around here has that on there. So if you'll just grab one of those, you can find our website. And if you have trouble with that and you need help, see Bobby in the back with his hand up, and he'll help you. Would everyone please pick up any trash you have left so we leave this building as clean as we found it? Thank you. Now, because of the configuration of this room, if everybody would just stand in place and hold hands, we'll say the Lord's Prayer.